Thank you all for being here. We are so pleased that Michele Brigida is our principal architect today. Thank you, Lee, for arranging everything. Lee, you want to kick us off or make an introduction?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Always fun to have coffee with all of you. So hence the coffee with the architect. Hopefully, hopefully it's straight coffee for most of you on the phone, but if it's your choice of beverage, so to speak. But wanted to start off with thanking everybody for coming. Give just a real quick, I noticed there's some new faces. This is our second one. I wanted to give just a real quick genesis of why this came to be. You know, I came on board as I was honored to ask to come on board and take over for Anna in December actually last year. And so one of the first things that I did was survey the allied members and ask them, you know, what can we do to provide more value? Of course, everybody is we want to learn more about the architects, and for a lack of a cliche saying, I want to get inside the head of the architect. I said, well, maybe there's a way to do that now, and certainly virtually, it's made it a little bit easier. It's made it almost a little bit more intimate, do I dare say, you know, that word. So we've put together this kind of series of events. What started out as 21 minutes is now going to 30 minutes, and it might grow a little bit longer in the future, but we're really trying to keep it very small and very intimate and very, hey, this is just kind of your water cooler, or seriously having a quick coffee with an architect to ask a little bit what's going on with their companies and whatnot. And so a couple takeaways from the first meeting, we got together, we being Lance, who was the current, or is the current AIA president, but also was the first speaker for the series, and said, okay, what did we learn, right? Let's do some check and adjust, and found out, hey, there's some good substance here. There's some good engaging. There's some good opportunities for people to have the opportunity to not only get to know each other a little bit better, but also have a dialogue with a principal in a firm that is responsible for making decisions on whether or not they choose to go with our service and products that most of us here are representing. And so a couple takeaways is, you know, we changed it from 21 minutes to 30 minutes. We came out with saying maybe there's an opportunity for there to be sponsorships, and sponsorships from the standpoint that we don't want this to be a selling conversation, right? I mean, everybody has the opportunity to do that with their architect if they make a relationship. But we really want this to be focusing on a relationship. But having said that, much like any organization, there's an opportunity maybe for one or two people to say, hey, here's your, you know, 1 or 2 minutes of spotlight saying, I want to be responsible for hosting Michele, for example, in this particular one. So you'll see some information coming out on sponsorship opportunities, very inexpensive opportunities for you to say, hey, I'd like to be the one that maybe introduces Michele or whoever the architect is. So you'll see some information coming out about that. Give you a quick idea of who's coming up. So Michele is today. July's meeting is going to be Wyndham with TSK. August's meeting is going to be Dwayne with Novus, and then we have it opened up. We have many people that we're reaching out to. We'd also like to hear from you on who you want to hear from. So feel free to reach out to me or Randy or Kelly and say, hey, you guys ever thought about this particular principle? We'd love to hear more from them. So other than that, any quick thoughts, questions before I introduce our distinguished guest of honor? Okay, good. So it's my pleasure to introduce Michele, and I gotta look at my notes here. So Michele is a partner and principal at Carpenter Gatto Architects, which also happens to be AIA Western Mountain Region Firm of the Year. She has 17 years of architectural experience in all aspects of design, construction documents, and client service. Some of her notable project designs include the University of Nevada, Las Vegas Hospitality Hall, UNLV Lee Business School, gotta appreciate that, Lee, Henderson Fire Station number 91, the Muscular Dystrophy Association Headquarters Edition, the Nevada State College Education Academic Building, and the Henriksson Butler Showroom and the Zappos.com headquarters. Michele graduated cum laude from University of Southern California in School of Architecture, and this was fascinating that I learned about her. She was born in Los Angeles, not that part, But Michele grew up and studied abroad in Argentina. That part, pretty fascinating. She strongly believes in collaborative design. It is through the collaborative effort with the team and the client that a successful design emerges. Michele's passionate about sustainability and has led the CSD team in sustainable design practice. She is a licensed architect in Nevada and heavily involved with the local AIA and USGBC chapters. Outside of her daily office practice, Michele dedicates time to the future of her profession, taking on speaking engagements, i.e. today, and is an active member of the AIA Education and Outreach Committee, aiming to reach underrepresented students from varied backgrounds. She's helped organize the See Me Symposium showcasing female leadership in architectural design. Please help me welcome Michele.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I do have some questions for Michele, but before I ask, is there anyone out there that would love to ask Michele a question first? This is why I have some teed up, because I always got to get it started.
Don't be shy, just speak up.
We'll start out with an easy softball. How about that? So Michele, what was your favorite project during your career and why? I ask this because in most cases when I talk to designers, there's always one project that stands out and there's always a story behind it. So which project is that for you?
Oh my gosh, I will have to say, obviously at the firm, there's a series of projects and that we worked on that I've been a part of that are, very important and valuable and, significant to me. But I would have to say that when I graduated, I had the opportunity to work with Tadao Ando. That's I don't know if you guys know him, but he's a well-known architect. And I worked with him on the Grand Rapids Art Museum in Michigan, which actually was the first LEED Gold museum in the country. And coming out of school, being given the opportunity of working on that project. And he's a very intense and talented architect. He's a Pritzker Prize winner. That made an impact on me. So that was a very important moment in my career, coming out of school. So awesome. That was it.
Excellent. Feel free to chime in, anyone.
I've got a quick question. Well, hopefully it's quick. When you are, what are a couple of things that you look for in your design team sub-consultants?
The first thing that I think is important to us as we're putting together a team is understanding who would be best suited, not only for the project, but for the team as a whole, but also making sure that our sub-consultants realize the importance that relationships have for us, relationships with the team, with the clients. We as a firm, once we engage on a project with an owner, we're committed for the lifetime of the project. That's something that is, at the forefront for us. And we want to see that level of partnership with our sub-consultants. So sometimes, you tend to gravitate towards team members that you've worked with in the past, right? But sometimes we're always open to learning and knowing who's out there too, because for us relationships are important, and then the selection is basically based on who's best suited for that specific project. How can we always, and it's always at the forefront, who and how do we make the project successful for the owner, and who will become our partner for the life of the project. So, there's challenges, right, when you work on something. So that for us is very important.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Michele, you and I first spoke, we talked about the importance of relationships, and I love how you turned that relationship comment into partnership. You know, there's attributes that a relationship and a partnership has. In your perspective, or from your perspective, what is the most important, right? So when you say a partnership with somebody, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I think first of all, we have to be committed. We have to be committed to overcome any challenge that may happen, any that we will always see as an opportunity, right? Bringing up solutions, trust is also important. I think during these 33 years, one of the things that resonated with me, or that made my decision to become a partner with Mike and Rick really easy, is a reputation. So knowing who we are, right, and what that means, right, upkeeping that. So to me, it's commitment to overcome things. Of course, you have to be knowledgeable, right? We have to, if we don't know the answer to something, we have to be committed to finding a response to that, an answer when a challenge occurs, and bringing that to the plate and solving situations. So
That's okay.
I think it's trust, it's responsibility, it's all that.
Trust, responsibility, commitment. Great question, Anna. Thank you. Another question came in. I would love to know how Michele thinks it is best for vendors, suppliers to work with architects in the current future, given so many are working from home.
Well, I think one of the things that we've always had our lunch and learns here, and of course we can't do that now, but we do, our office is still open to, of course, getting to know everyone via virtual meetings. We have vendors come in. We just, keep our distance, maintain that, make sure that people are safe. We like to get to know all of you ahead of time too, right? Because we may not be working on the project that will utilize your product or your service, but when that project arises, we want to make sure that we know who you are, so that we can, again, partner with you and implement them. We have established here in the office, and a lot of you already know us, you can reach out to anybody. Any of our staff can direct you to our office manager to set up whatever needs to be set up and come to meet us. We also, Mike, Rick, and myself, whenever any of you are in the office, we also like to stop in and say hello and thank you, because that's something that we don't take for granted. The interest that you have to come visit us and show us who you are and get to know you, right? It's also an opportunity for us. So that's basically it. It's a reciprocal commitment too.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Hey,
John.
Hey, I'm sorry. I have a question, Michele. So what do you see with the current situation? What are owners asking with regards to, the current situation and how it's affecting design moving forward? So, there are all these challenges with, distancing and cleanable surfaces and things like that. What are your conversations like with owners currently, considering where we are?
So it's interesting. Currently, we have a big project under construction at Nevada State College, and it's being built in the middle of a pandemic. Everything has been selected for this project: finishes, layouts. We have multiple collaboration spaces throughout lobbies, hallways, and it's a campus where there's going to be a lot of students, right? So safety's at the forefront. Interestingly enough, there is that particular project, there's always a sense of optimism. We have not been asked to revise layouts to spread people apart, but we have designed spaces that would allow for that to happen. So at this point, furnishing selections, quantities, nothing has been impacted. However, we have investigated and we are providing antimicrobial hardware at doors. There's some not concerns, but just making sure that whatever is installed is cleanable and it's easy to be maintained. The same client, however, a different building on their campus, we've also worked on one of their student success service areas, just addressing one of their counters, their millworks, and implementing solutions to contain virus spread, for example, partitions and things like that. So it's which is not happening in their new building. I think that the response that the things that we're doing are, I would want to say, and I hope they're temporary measures till we all come out of this. Nothing that we've done is a permanent design solution. Like, nothing's fixed. For example, these partitions are movable, they'll be removed. Spaces for the future are still being conceived as collaborative spaces. There's not this is a dark hole that we won't get out of.
Good. Okay.
That's what I've seen on that particular case. It's also, it depends on the client. Others are, hesitant, have a little bit of cold feet with office space design. So they're kind of waiting and seeing what's going to happen with that. So that's what I've seen. There's a concern, but we don't think that there's hope.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I've had the pleasure of working with you when I was with the City of Henderson and on Fire Station 91, which is a great experience. And now that I'm on the construction side of the table, what do you look for? And maybe this is a firm, focus, but what do you guys look for in a builder and partnering with a builder that is important to you? And I know Core, we have partnered on several projects, but what are those traits that you're looking for to have that great partnership in a successful project?
Well, you know me, so it's attention to detail for sure, Mark, for sure. That's important. Yeah. But again, it's something comes up in field. There's a problem. Whoever's mistake this was, mine, yours, a sub, whatever it is, coming up with a solution for the owner to overcome that. That's the main, because construction is there's always an event that happens, whatever it is, that could become a hurdle for the project. So we just want to make sure that, and this happens all the time with your team, that there's always a solution. There's always a way of resolving an issue. I also like when we have opportunities to partner from the design, as the design is conceived, because as architects, we look at detailing, and contractors, builders have different ways of resolving a complex detail and simplifying it in a way that it may be possible to build and not be V'd out. Fire Station had that with, I just want to mention, the plywood ceiling, right, at the kitchen area, that common space. We worked through that with you guys, and it became a prototype. It's being implemented on all the other ones. So I think it's that. It's for us, the most important thing is again, it goes back to those relationships and how committed we are to overcome any issue and make that an opportunity to better the project.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Sticking on the building side, Mark, and a question for you, Michelle, maybe even Mark, as from the construction side, be interested to hear both of your guys' thoughts. And I read an article the other day. It said Associated Builders and Contractors Chief Economist Oliver Bosser in April, he estimated that COVID-19 has taken a wrecking ball to the American building industry. 85,200 jobs lost in the architecture and engineering firms alone. All industries have had to tighten their purse strings. Having said that, as allied members supporting you, Michelle, what are, other than the obvious, which is cost, what are some of the other things that you look for? We mentioned the solution kind of mindset earlier, but how do we help support the success of the architects and the engineers and even the construction side of the house, so that we're able to collectively get through this this black swan and eventually get to a white swan without losing so many of our friends and family.
Oh gosh. So something comes to mind, and it may not address this question, but I was recently on an SIOR meeting, and they were just expressing how important it is for everybody in the city to really support and how do we advertise back again that Las Vegas is safe, that Las Vegas is this gaming community? How do we do our part to attract tourists back? Because that's what's going to help us come back from this quickly, because our economy is so dependent on that. So it's just something that came to mind. How do us individually can do that? You know, when the first convention happens, because it will happen one day, how do we support that event too in a safe manner? I think that's, you know, we have to think about even beyond our office and beyond our scope and beyond, you know, beyond just being architects or vendors or contractors, right? We got to find a way to make sure that the outside sees our city safe and it gravitates towards them, towards coming back. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but they, for example, are doing it through their websites, through LinkedIn, they have a Twitter feed. There's different things that people are doing. As far as relationships with you guys and how you can support us too is again, product knowledge, ideas that may come through mind, opportunities, right? You may have, I don't know, we have clients and we're partnering with some of you too on this that maybe aren't have a project that they were conceiving as an open office space. Well, how do we rethink that? How do we you know, regroup? How do we revisit that design? Maybe it's again implementing some things that make people feel safer. There's a big push on well, and so we're doing that too, right? Just things like that, I guess. I think it's going to be to help us not lose those jobs and not lose the people. It's going to be a bigger effort than just, you know, limited to our architectural practice, right? It has to be more of a global, more of a citywide effort. So how do we promote the city, what's happening, the development, whatever it is, and support activities as they start to open too.
Good. Thank you, Michelle. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Any additional thoughts, comments from anyone? Questions?
I have one more, if it's okay. And it's regarding LEED. Michelle, are you finding that clients and owners are still interested in going through the commissioning process for LEED registration? It seems the recent trend in the last 10 years has been to design sustainably, but I've noticed, at least in my markets, a bit of a drop-off as far as actually commissioning the project. So what are you seeing regarding that?
So we've, of course, all projects that are pursuing certifications, for sure, they're doing commissioning. And it's interesting that you're mentioning that, because it seems that commissioning and making sure that the building is performing and the systems are performing would be critical, right? As an owner, you would want that. Our projects have been commissioned and are commissioned. You know, it's sometimes what happens is, if you're going through the LEED process and you have to do the flush outs and all of that, impact to schedule is what makes them think about it, right, twice. So it's, you know, again, overcoming that for them to see the benefits of commissioning. I find that there's well design is kind of gaining traction now, and we're in the process of also becoming certified on that. But you know, it's I have not seen maybe Mark would actually, you know, on the building side, Mark, on other of your projects, do you see commissioning not being something that that owners are pursuing?
Well, we obviously deal with the public agency sector 90% of the time. So, and you know, from a political standpoint, they're all still very, you know, strong advocates of some certification, whether it's Green Globes or LEED. We haven't seen any well building pursuits yet, but so yeah, we're still seeing it. But there's some clients that I think, John, as you mentioned, you know, they're, hey, let's design efficiently, design it to meet a level, but let's not go to the certification. It just depends on the client. You know, the cities are very proactive, the state, not so much, school district, not at all. But, you know, with energy, IECC going into effect and pushing that, obviously every building is going to be efficient. It's just really trying to convince, from an architectural standpoint and a consultant standpoint, convince those clients, you know, you've gone this far, go the extra step. And from a political standpoint, you know, a lot of, you know, elected officials love that status and love to promote, you know, how efficient we are, and here's the measures that we've done. So it really depends on clients, though.
Yeah, but like Mark said, right, the LEED equivalency, right, is something that we see very often too, right? So you don't do it, but you're following all the measures and points and trying to abide as much as possible.
And I will say, lastly, that Green Globe seems to be gaining momentum and is more liked by at least a couple of our clients, because it seems less cumbersome and more global and less nitpicky. I guess, you know, USGBC has gotten a little more difficult in the last couple of years. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So interesting dialogue between Michele and Mark. So, you know, I had a note, I didn't bring it up on, you know, what does the future of these particular meetings look like? But this is a perfect example of, hey, maybe it's not just an architect. There's different ways we can look at this moving forward. Maybe it's an architect and general contractor that worked on a project. What was the success story of them that you got to know what worked for them on a project, you know, or what if it was an architect, an interior architect, and a landscape architect? Put them all in a panel and what worked well for them. But it's really designed for us to get inside that mind of what makes a successful design firm, what makes it a successful project. So I wanted to, you know, thank both of you guys for that little exchange right there, because it only builds into what potentially I hope this becomes for all of us, which is relationships, right? It's all.
Yeah, I think it's, as long as there's a forum for communication, Lee, and it's open, then, you know, anybody can speak, and that's what makes, in my mind, I don't know, it makes it a nicer thing to do.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's now 9:59. I'll ask for any final thoughts, questions, or comments. Other than that, Michele, thank you for taking the time this morning to just spend 30 minutes with us and sharing your thoughts and where we're at as an industry and where we're going, and, you know, how we can support you and CDS. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Randy, thank you for the platform. And to all the allied members out there, thank you for joining us this morning. We will see you next month when Wyndham Kinsey from TSK shares his thoughts with us. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Lee. Take care. Thank you,
Guys.
Randy. Thanks.
Thanks, Michele. Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
day.
Thank you, Michele.
You're welcome.